Well, we're both from a suburban background. Neither of us have farming in our family roots, at least in the immediate history. No, I'll go first.
All right.
I'm John Bliss, and this is Stacy Brenner and Laura, our daughter. We have another daughter as well. She's at school. This is Broadturn Farm. We're in Scarborough, Maine. The land is new to us. We've been here for 3 growing seasons. The property was purchased by the Land Trust, the Scarborough Land Trust, about 5 or 6 years ago. It was preserved as farmland, so that gives us a job. We live in the house here and do primarily a vegetable garden and some small livestock on a more homestead scale. We have usually about 4 employees that live here on the farm. We met about 9 years ago, and we moved up to Maine. We started out in Cumberland, where we were managing a CSA for another farmer. We were there for a couple of years, basically cutting our teeth on the whole concept, and 2 years later we started our own business on rented land in Cape Elizabeth. And that's where we really got our feet wet with owning our own business and got a little more into some small livestock, basically to sustain ourselves, give us some good food besides vegetables. And 3 years ago, this opportunity opened up here, the opportunity of a longer-term lease and good farmland within the same markets that we had already established. So we came to Broadturn Farm.
I always wanted to be a farmer. I actually went to school for agriculture. It was a great experience for me in terms of sort of the science and the background of plants, but it's pretty unapplicable to what I'm doing now. You know, how do you rotate crops, and how do you get the spinach to germinate, and how do you manage a crew? And so I would say that maybe once a week something that I learned is applicable. We sort of envision the farm as multi-layered community involvement. So it could be as simple as someone coming out to pick their own strawberries in the early summer, or they could become a CSA member and come out every week to pick up produce and sort of commit to volunteer hours. We always have things in the dooryard, in our fridge, in the barn for sale, eggs and raw milk. We can't advertise that we have milk for sale because we just sell out of the barn, and we're not a registered licensed dairy or anything. So.
The bread and butter of the farm is the CSA, though.
Yeah.
That's where the bulk of our work happens and the bulk of our income comes from. We sell poultry and eggs and stuff to the CSA members. It's sort of a ready-made market for us. They're already coming out here for vegetables. And usually in the wintertime, if we have products that are late fall or early spring, we can put a word out to the CSA community through our networks, and people will come around usually to take care of that.
We try to blog about what we have coming on the farm and what's going on so that people can stay afloat of the activities here. www.broadturnfarm.com. The farm is a result of the community's hard work to preserve the land, raise money through state and federal avenues to put the land under a conservation easement.
Obviously, our customers are coming from a more affluent side of the farm. They're folks who are conceptually in agreement with sustainable agriculture, and they appreciate and can pay for really good, high-quality food. The folks on the other side of the farm are there to give us moral support and give tidbits of knowledge that they have from their generations or previous generations, give us local history about what was going on here before we showed up,
help us fix the tractor.
Help us fix
they
the
have
tractor.
this sort of wisdom and know-how that has been just
Indispensable.
indispensable. Yeah.
And you know, we try to give them as much bartered goods as we can. I mean, that's a very open, accepted way of
Doing
relating with each other.
That what we'd like to do is have the farm be as closed of a loop as possible. We put in a compost pad at the end of last year as a place for us to stage, turn, and mix our animal waste with any other sorts of vegetable scraps. And we have neighbors who bring their grass clippings and leaves by that we mix in with those products to create some of our own compost. Like, for example, with our livestock, one of the things we try to encourage is that our interns learn about how to use all parts of a chicken, so that you learn how to process the bird. The bird's raised out on the pasture or in the field, so that you're using their manure to fertilize the field. And then after they've processed the chicken, they compost the waste, and then they have their meal. They can get 3 meals out of that chicken. They can roast it, they can make a casserole, and then they can make a soup, and then they feed the bones off to the pigs, and you know, you have 0 waste, and you've made the most of that product.
I think that a lot of people don't really appreciate the fact that tilling the ground is a necessary evil, but it's not good for the ground and soil structure and organic matter, greenhouse gases that get released every time you drive a tractor over bare soil and aerate it. You know, the fact that we don't till the pasture and the hayfield, that's the most sustainable form of agriculture, in my opinion, is actually grass-based livestock. So hayfield and pasture do their part in feeding the garden. The cows that do that work for us is almost like a byproduct of, you know, the hamburgers and the delicious milk is byproduct of really this whole system that we're trying to orchestrate here.
I think that small-scale organic family farming is one of the most active forms of environmentalism that there is. I think it's a real effective way to address some of the major degradation that happens when you look at large agribusiness, genetically modified foods. It's a way to participate in that problem with a solution. When I think about whether or not to encourage people to go in to consider farming, I always think first that it's not a job or career, it's a lifestyle. So you have to really feel good about sort of buying into the whole lifestyle. But I do think that there is potential for ag to be a major economic driver for the state of Maine.
To me, what's really important about this work is being connected to our heritage. And so much in contemporary life is fraught with confusion and indecision. And I think that a lot of that comes down to the fact that we've been only living the way we've been living culturally for like 50 years, 100 years. I mean, really 25 years if you want to be honest about it, in terms of driving cars everywhere and using technology. So what do I feel more comfortable doing? So it seems to make sense. But I feel more comfortable doing things that my ancestors have been doing for hundreds of years, thousands of years, right? Like working off the land, using our land base to sustain ourselves, and working on tasks that are repetitive and fairly monotonous, but have a lot of creativity as well. So that makes me feel good about what we're doing.